Yes, yep, back in Sydney. Yep, only just as of a couple of weeks ago. Um, Feels really nice to be home though.
Nice. Survived hotel quarantine?
Just it was a challenge. It was probably one of the hardest things I've ever done. Like mentally, it was yeah. By that first week after that, it was like, oh God, I have to do it all again. Like it was yeah.
What did you, I mean, could you even be creative in that space, or did you just have to?
No, no, not really. Like I wish I was, but I just had to get through it. I think that was my biggest goal. I just wanted to get through it. So I painted. I did like a paint by numbers that took up like 80% of my time.
Right.
I did this clay making thing. I didn't really write any songs in there. I just yeah, it was probably not the right environment. But I wish I could be that type of person that was like, yes, I got this done and I got this done, but I didn't at all.
I think that's very understandable. That would be a very tough environment.
Yeah, yeah, definitely doesn't get the juices flowing.
Hey, so thank you so much for joining us on this live stream.
No,
Really,
thank you for having me.
before we start, I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia, their connections to land, sea, and community, and we pay our respect to their elders, past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. So, before, I guess another great place to start is by talking about you. Just,
Oh,
I'm sure
great.
that's my favorite subject.
Woo.
I'm sure everyone watching this knows who you are, but I think some of your achievements are worth recapping because they're pretty amazing. Um,
Oh, thank you.
the music that you've released has been streamed more than 50 million times globally.
Wow.
6 million streams have come from America, from the US. You've been featured on more than 50 global new music playlists on Spotify, covered in publications like Billboard, Clash, Line of Best, Vogue Australia, Jaxsta, of course.
Jaxsta, top
You are
one.
also a two-time finalist in the Vanda and Young songwriting competition, which
Yeah,
will out very shortly. And you have a new single out called Close, which
I do.
very shortly. For anyone watching who doesn't know me, which is very understandable, I'm Rod and I work for Jaxsta. And Jaxsta is the world's biggest database of official music. So if you wanted to know who wrote or played on or co-wrote, I should say, because Chloe wrote some music, but co-wrote or co-produced or played on any of Chloe's music, you could go to jaxsta.com and type in Chloe in the search bar and all that information will come up.
Can have a big stalk. You can have a
So
big stalk. Yeah.
you are one of those co-writers or co-producers or engineers, you can claim your profile on jaxsta.com and use it to do all sorts of cool things to help your career. So check it out. All right. So I mentioned that you are a two-time finalist in the Vanda and Young songwriting competition,
Yeah, it's
and
awesome competition.
a fantastic competition. And Jax is very proud to be a supporter of it. And the competition is actually open now. I think
Yeah, you can
entries
still enter.
You can still enter. Entries close this Friday, October 22nd. And the competition is open to all songwriters globally, whether you're published or unpublished. So there's lots of prize money on offer, more than about $80,000, I think. So it could really change your life if you're a songwriter watching.
Definitely now more than ever. Yes.
Exactly. And also the proceeds from the competition go to an amazing organisation called Nordoff Robbins Australia, which uses music therapy to help children and adults who are suffering all sorts of difficulties, whether they're psychological or physical or emotional or cognitive. It's a really, really fantastic organisation. So please check out Nordoff Robbins Australia. Now, let's talk about two of those songs which were finalists in the Vanda and Young songwriting comps. Let's start with Show You, which was in 2019. And
Yes.
it's a song which he co-wrote with Sam Farah from
Yeah.
Maroon 5.
Yes. Yeah.
How did that even come about? How did that session or those sessions come about?
It was a weird one. It was It was funny because I don't when I write with a new producer, I usually like to have someone else in the room, like another writer who I might know, just because it can be super awkward, like the first time meeting someone and it just being you two, and then having to jump into talking about usually personal stuff, but
Yeah.
we couldn't find another co-writer for that day. And I was like, I'd heard great things about Sam, so I was like, stuff it, whatever, let's just go and do it. And so it was just Sam and I, and I'd been linked up with him through my manager, and he was the loveliest guy. He was so sweet, and usually there's that bit of awkwardness when you're first meeting someone, especially when it's just you two and there's no third person to like kind of hold the space as well. But we just like he started playing something on guitar and we just jumped into it, and it literally just like vomited out. It was super fast. We wrote it in like an hour. It was
Really?
yeah, which is not like I'm me at all. It usually takes like 10 hours to get it all out. But yeah, no, Sam's incredible, and he's the sweetest guy. So yeah, that's kind of how that came about. Like I left and I was like, oh wow, I think that might be a good one.
Nice. So when you
Yeah.
go into like that, do you tend to have a lyric idea or a musical idea, or is it just a blank page and you just look at each other and see what comes out?
Well, I'm a bit of a control freak, and I feel quite stressed going into things without fully preparing, and so I always go into a session with like a concept or something, because like God forbid you get there and you don't know what to do, and that like would just stress me out because it's already so stressful. Like oh my God, so I always arrive with like a concept or something, and show you was what I had like written down. And so I kind of just pulled that out of the bag, and he was like, "This is cool," and we kind of just went from there. But yeah, no, I wish I could be the type of artist or writer who could just like do it on the fly, but I don't think I could. I don't think I could do that. I like to come very well prepared. Just like keep pulling the ideas out of the hat in case people don't like them.
Sure. So when that concept that you had, do you remember when that even came to you? So that's obviously in advance of that session. So
Um, Before, because I wrote it in the States with Sam, and so before my trips, it usually is like when I'm driving, so I'll just like, hey Siri, write this down and put it in my notes. And it's always when I'm driving, like whether it's like an idiom or a phrase or something. Yeah, and it's in the most inconvenient times. Always. It'll never be like when I sit down with my laptop and I've got my recording gear out. It'll like never be then. It'll be in the worst times, like at a doctor's appointment or something. And I'll be like, excuse me 1 second. And I'm just like speaking into my phone. It's so annoying, but yeah. And I'll just quickly write them out. So I do that often before I go over and do these writing trips. And so I've got like a bank of ideas. Yeah.
where do you think the strangest place you've ever been where an idea has come to you in that fashion and you've had to just stop what you're doing and write or do a voice memo?
I think it was in an argument. Um, I think it was an argument, which is like so weird to be like self-serving, during an argument, just being like, I have an idea. But no, it was for I can't have nice things.
Right.
Um, I was talking with a friend and we were arguing about something, and they were like, well, I just can't have nice things, and Laura, and I was like, oh my God, that's brilliant, and I shouldn't be thinking about this right now because we're arguing. But like, and so in the back of, I was like not present that whole conversation. I was like, just remember it because you cannot take your phone out right now and write that down. Like this would make that a million times worse. So I was like, yeah, no, you're totally right, totally right. And then as soon as I was like, I can't have nice things, and I was like, so that's where that came from.
Did your friend get a royalty?
No, I don't even know if they know it was about them, but
Good, good.
they probably should get a royalty though.
You were saying earlier that sometimes, it has the potential to be a bit awkward when you sit down with someone for the first time.
Yeah.
And have you developed techniques that can alleviate that awkwardness? Try and break the ice.
I usually try and make sure. I mean, this isn't the best advice because sometimes you can't have another person in the room, but I usually try and make sure there's 3 people in the room, so that if there is a time where I don't know what to say or I can't feel that silence, then I have someone else there who can bounce bounce off with. But I don't know, sometimes it's good to meet for coffee before you work with them, just to kind of get to know each other, talk about everything but music, just yeah, to get to know each other. So by the time then you work with them, you're like, oh hey, like it's you again. So yeah, that's probably something that can kind of like ease that tension.
Yeah, cool. Do you think, when you think back to working with Sam on that track, did you come out of that session having learned any new tools or any new methods of songwriting, or any advice that you passed?
Yeah, it is going to sound really lame, but Show You was the only song that I've written by myself, and that I've released, and it kind
Right.
of just proves to me that I can. I
Mm.
think I always panic that, you know, imposter syndrome comes in and like I don't know what I'm doing. I can't do this. I need someone else in the room with me because they're gonna like find out that I'm like a fraud and I'm like, you know, I've somehow like found myself in this position sitting in this room with a member of Maroon 5. Like
Well, I think we've just. There you are. Yes,
yeah,
you just.
sorry, my phone was telling me my social media limit is up. Sorry,
Okay.
that's my healthy boundaries. No, sorry. Yeah, no. So yeah, that session probably just taught me that I can, you know, write on my own, and I can do it. Because yeah, a lot of the time I do question my art and question my ability.
Mm.
That yeah, that probably taught me the biggest lesson.
Yeah, I talk to a lot of artists and, songwriters and producers, pretty much everyone across the board, and they quite often, that is something that a lot of people have in common, that sense of imposter syndrome.
Yeah, it's
Is
the worst.
can it drive you in some cases? Can it actually propel you, or
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, it drives me in the fact that I mean, I don't know if it's healthy, but it makes me prepare, you know, before I go into a session because yeah, this sounds really unhealthy because I'm like, oh God, I'm gonna get there and you know, they're gonna find out that I have no ideas. So I think it drives me in a sense that I definitely make sure that I'm going in with lots of ideas and that's probably a really good thing because you know, sometimes when you're doing these sessions, you only have like one sometimes shot with you know, a particular producer or a writer, and you don't want it to be a waste of time. So I always make sure to pre-plan before going in, so it isn't, you know, a wasted opportunity.
right? Okay. So another track that was a finalist in the Vanda and Young Songwriting Comp in
Yes,
2018,
Monster.
uh,
Yes.
which is an amazing song and a great title as well. Where did you have the idea for that title first, or was the title informed by the lyrics? How did that work?
So that was a title that I came up with after I'd been spending a little bit of time in LA, and I think when you know, graduated, I started to do casual trips over to the States where I'd spend a couple months there and then I'd come home and spend a couple months there. And I was definitely like still finding myself. And you know, you go over there and you don't know who your crowd is, and you know, you're trying to make friends and you're trying to figure out this whole crazy industry. And I think I kind of found myself in a few positions saying a few things where I was like, oh, that's not you. Like that's, you
Mm.
know, you're not like that, or this isn't your crowd. And so I kind of felt like a bit of a monster in some instances. So yeah, I took that idea and brought it to Pip Norman, who is an Australian producer, incredible. And then yeah, kind of took it from there, and wrote it around that experience.
And those experiences sound like it takes a lot of guts to do what you did, to just jump on a plane and go to LA looking for songwriting sessions.
Mm.
What was it like the first time you set foot there?
I set foot. I just like got off the plane, bawled my eyes out, bawled my eyes out. When you land in LA, it's like midnight here,
Mm,
in Australia. So
mm,
I couldn't call my partner. I couldn't call anyone. Well, I tried to, but everyone was asleep, and I
mm.
was just like, "What have I done? Like, what am I doing here? This is the silliest thing ever." This sounded good in you know, when I wasn't actually doing it. This sounded great, but now that I'm here and I don't know anyone and I don't know if anyone wants to work with me, it was just terrifying. It's just like, honestly, it was so terrifying. But I kind of just, I remember I hadn't even got my bags yet. I went to the bathroom and I was like, pull yourself together. Got my bags, and then yeah, kind of just jumped into it. But it was very scary. And oh, the CEO of Jaxsta's on. Jackie says an amazing but incredibly tough city. It is.
Yeah.
It's very tough.
So when did you, well, what, I mean, how did you just stop? How did you talk yourself down? How did you just resist that temptation to jump on a plane the next day back
I
to
mean,
Australia?
there has not a couple. There was one trip that I did get on a plane the next day, but I was like, no, this isn't it for me this time. This is, I just, it was, but that was only like, you know, a couple of years later. But for that first few times where I, you know, really just needed to like put my big girl pants on and like get into it, it was pretty much just, you know, necessity. I knew that I needed to do it, and everything is on the other side of fear is like a kind of mantra thing that I go back to. Everything hard is worth doing. Like I just keep, you know, telling myself those things. And I also don't like letting people down. That's one thing that I don't like doing, because I feel like, I just feel grateful for a lot of the time that people have given me. So I had all these sessions booked and I was like, oh God, no, I can't turn around now. I have to actually do it. And so you just fake it. You fake it. And then you eventually enjoy yourself, which is just being real. Like it's really, you know, yeah, it's a bit of a journey, but yeah, when you know, start to find yourself enjoying it, that's when you're like, oh, okay, like I can do this.
You can do it, yeah. When do you think, how long did it take you to feel comfortable, do you think?
A couple years.
Wow.
A couple years. I think I once I found my group of friends, who, funnily enough, most of them are Australian. But yeah, once I kind of found a really good crowd to put myself around, and I felt comfortable and felt like home. That was when I was like, okay, cool. I feel comfortable, and I don't feel like a stranger in this city anymore.
Right. So
Yeah.
was music, was it always music for you growing up? Did you always just have a clear focus that music is what I'm going to do?
Yeah, yeah, it was. I also did acting. I got a scholarship to an acting school in high school, so I did that for a little bit. But then I realized that music was kind of something that I probably enjoyed more, so I changed my like my course, and I moved over to music, and I graduated doing that. And I mean, I started when I was really young. I did musicals, sung in choirs, like I did all of that,
Sure.
and then kind of came back to where I wanted to be, which was doing pop music.
Right. Who are the, were there artists, like who are the earliest artists that you remember inspiring, whether you found them or you know, you heard them through your parents?
Yeah.
Were there artists that really just,
Definitely, yeah, definitely. There were some shaping artists. Sarah Bareilles was actually probably one of the, when I heard "I'm gonna write you a love song," that love song,
right,
that was one of the most like, I really like, I want to do that. Like, and she's very more like organic, stripped back, and so I actually fell into that land for a little bit. I was doing more stripped back type of stuff. I love Joni Mitchell, Eva Cassidy. Yeah, all those incredible female vocalists. They're, you know, insane. And then I kind of fell in love with production and Tove Lo and Banks, and then I kind of took a bit of a lefter turn, and the pop music kind of developed a bit of a darker sound, and that's kind of like how the journey
yeah.
came to be. Yeah.
And it is a journey, right? It was a
Oh
journey.
my God, it is. You don't fall into, you know, you stumble. You stumble into finding where you want to end up.
Right. And you've just got to stick with it, because there must be times as well, as you've said, and again, not to dwell on this, but there must be times where you wonder, are you going to find your sound? And it's a relief when you do Tough Love or Monster and you find that sound.
Well, it's funny you say that. Tough, yeah, tough love. And I remember the moment. I was in LA. It was one of my first sessions with Chelsea Jade and Boy Boy. And I was kind of like dabbling in, I don't even know what I was doing really. Pop music, but it had no like substance to it. And it was during that session I was like, oh my God, I finally found what makes me the happiest and what makes me so excited. And that was like weird pop. Um, so yeah, that moment's really cool. That's really, really cool.
Such a big moment. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, 2021, obviously COVID has been terrible, but you've managed to be productive musically, releasing 3 singles this year alone. The latest being Close. And
Yes.
on your Instagram feed, there's a little, I guess there's a post where I think it's got the date of the original
Yes.
rough that, which is
Yep.
in February 18th,
Yep.
2020. Was that when that song first came to you?
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes it takes so long for songs to have their life. Like it's so weird. Like a lot of the songs I'm releasing now, I wrote 2 years ago and they're only just coming out. So that journey is crazy. It does take a long time sometimes.
Yeah. Is it, can you remember where you were at in your life when you wrote that? Because I think I've seen a quote from you where you've been talking about it's that idea of, you're really putting yourself out there, but you're not getting the results in return. And
Exactly.
that this was happening at a time when you were going overseas to perform for record labels. Is
Yeah,
that?
yeah, 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 yeah. So yeah, the whole idea about close is that not being able to close the deal when you really want to, or um, yeah. And it was at a time where I was flying all around the place, meeting with different labels, and trying to find the home that fit the best for me. And I couldn't like seal the deal because I kept having to sacrifice parts of my I was going to have to sacrifice parts of myself that I really didn't want to, because sometimes they can take a lot more than they should, and I just couldn't do it. And like one of the lyrics is made these doors go flying open, but I can't seem to close them. And I was like, I've done this. I've brought myself these opportunities, but for some reason I just can't close them. Like I was finding it really hard. But everything's happened for a reason, and I found a label that I fell in love with, and that I was still able to stay in control and have speak about not speak about well tell them the songs that I loved and I wanted to put out, and they're awesome and I love them and they're family to me. But at that time it was really, really hard. I was like, what the heck am I doing wrong, and should I just it felt like at the time just like selling my soul, to these, offers I was getting, that I was like, nah, like, I don't know if I can hand that over just yet. I'm not saying they're
Right.
all like that, but some of them are like that.
And do you have people you can confide in throughout this process, or examples of people who've come before you who you can use an example for how you want your career to go in that regard?
Um, I don't, to be honest, I don't really know, because the going independent and working independently is only just like a new, um like in terms of labels and stuff like that. I feel like artists are doing more and more, but at the time I actually felt best asking for advice for people who knew nothing about music. That was actually really good for me, because it brought me back to what was the most important and what was going to make me the happiest. And so I spoke a lot about it with my partner, and he was like, this is a deal breaker for you. I know that you wouldn't be able to deal with this. I feel like you could sacrifice, for this. So yeah, I don't know. There weren't too many artists I mean, I looked at Lauv. Lauv said independent, with AWOL, who is the label I'm signed with,
Mm.
and Soundlot Records. So that was really cool. I was like, he puts out what he wants to put out and is super happy, and so that was definitely someone of that drew inspiration from me. But I definitely, speaking with family and friends, just because they knew nothing about it and they just knew what was going to make me happy, which really helped.
Yeah, and that's incredible insight for anyone who's watching this who is in your position or is aspiring to be in your position. When you think about some of the other things you've learned through songwriting and through all your travels and your journeys, if there were a couple of key lessons that you think you've learned that you think an aspiring songwriter could really do with knowing, what would they be?
Um, Probably just like, the moment that you feel like it's, not working, that's usually when you have those breakthroughs. Um, the moment that you feel like giving up, that is usually when it's just if you hold on that little bit longer, you'll see, some sort of return, even if it's small. And probably in terms of songwriting, write all the bad songs, like just write them all, because with each song you get closer and closer and closer to where you want to be. Even if it's like a tiny little thing from that song that you like, you slowly start cherry picking these bits, and it comes together, and then all of a sudden you've developed a world, without you even knowing.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean, and surrounding yourself with a good group of people. I'm so lucky. There's such an awesome music community in Australia that has been developed. Which when I was 18, so I'm so sorry. That was my phone again. I cancelled it, and it's not going to annoy me again. He
That's
was
okay.
like, "You really need to get off social media now." Sorry. Oh my god, I've cancelled it. It's not going to come up again. Um, but yeah, having a good community around you, because
Yeah.
it really really helps. Yeah, when I first started out in the industry, there wasn't really such a strong community, and I did find it quite hard to connect with people. But I feel like now, and a lot of it is to do with APRA. They've really connected everyone so well, and with the song hubs you meet so many new people, so it's really, important to put yourself forward for that type of stuff, because you develop a great community, and it's definitely less scary and lonely and daunting.
Yeah, fantastic. So what does the rest of the year hold in store? Early next year?
So the rest of the year, so I still have one more release for this year,
Great.
which I'm actually filming the music video on Friday for, which I'm really, really excited. It's one of my favorite songs I've ever done, so I'm going to finish the year with a bang. And then I'm actually moving to the States with my partner in February. So just spending a lot of time with family up until then. Both my sisters just had a baby, so I'm going to be Auntie Judy's for the rest of the year,
Right.
until we make that move.
What an exciting move.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, pretty scary, but I'm glad I have him with me, because yeah, again, less scary.
Sure. Chloe, thank you so much for your time
Thank you,
tonight.
Rod. You're so great to chat to. You really are.
Ah,
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you, Jaxsta.
oh, we're so glad you could join us. So just a reminder, Close, your new single is out now. Anyone, songwriters watching this, want to enter the Vanda and Young Songwriting Competition, head to apraamcost.com.au. Entries close this Friday, over the 22nd. And for all your music credits, head to jaxsta.com, which is jaxsta.com. And that's that. Thanks
That's
so much.
that. Thank you so much, Rod.
Great to see you. Bye.
Bye. See you.
Bye.